Well, today's pet of the day is Sweetie, and she looks like it. Sweetie is truly a good girl who spent the last 2 years waiting for a home to call her own. If you would like to give Sweetie a forever home, you can meet her and fill out an adoption form through the Humane Society of Northeast Georgia. And thank you so much for joining us. Sherry is next. Of course, we are always online at Fox Local and on fox5atlanta.com.
And we hope you'll stick around. The noon hour is in 1 hour. Have a marvelous
It is great to have you on our Monday morning. What a pleasure, you guys. We've got a lot of stories to get to. And one of the first stories I'm going to let you know about involves an update we just got into our newsroom. We're now learning the memorial details for Officer David Rose of the Dekalb County Police Department. It's been a crazy past couple weeks of news stories, but you may remember Officer David Rose was killed when he was responding to a shooting outside of the CDC headquarters. According to a news release we just got from the Dekalb County, from their leaders, we know that this public memorial service honoring Officer Rose will happen Friday, August 22nd at 11 a.m. Now, this is going to happen at First Baptist Church here in Atlanta, and that's at 4400 North Peachtree Road. You can find these details on our website, fox5atlanta.com, but I do want to go through them right now with you if you're listening and streaming along. We know, again, this is going to be on Friday, August 22nd, starts at 11 a.m., the service, First Baptist Church, and it will be open to the public. You will have access to come in and pay your respects, but keep in mind, this will be on a first come, first served basis. Seating especially expected to go quickly. Guests are encouraged to arrive early to allow for seating and security screening throughout this process. You will also be able to park on site. So there will be posted signage letting you know where to go there at the church, and we'll continue to keep you updated as we learn new details about this. But according to DeKalb County leaders, they are encouraging elected officials to attend, and they want to let the public know that they are also welcome to come and pay their respect. So again, as we get closer to this, we'll continue to keep you updated. But one thing I do want to let you know about, a nonprofit, Luke's Wings, has actually been very generous in this situation and is working to get Officer David Rose's family to Atlanta, working to make sure that they can come into Atlanta to pay their respects. They are bringing his loved ones here, offering 15 free flights to do so. So I want to go ahead and see if we can talk to both Mackenzie and Jamie. Mackenzie Kiesel works there at Luke's Wings, and Jamie Kopp is executive director. Ladies, I see you both now. Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having us.
Wonderful. So tell me a little bit about Luke's Wings and what you guys do.
So Luke's Wings provides complimentary airplane tickets to wounded, ill, and injured service members, veterans, first responders, and their families throughout their recovery and rehabilitation. So especially for our law enforcement officers, we have a program line providing flights for the loved ones and family members of officers who are injured, catastrophic injury or death in the line of duty. And so we'll bring their family into their bedside or to their funeral so that the family can all be together and mourn together.
I can't imagine. I mean, you're dealing with a loved one who has suffered something traumatic, and the last thing you want to be thinking about is, how am I going to get family here, the logistics, how am I going to work this out so they can come either pay their respects or be near the wounded's bedside, making sure that they can spend that time with family. So you guys come in and help with those logistics, which is just so wonderful. How are you helping with Officer Rose's family, and did they reach out to you? How did you get involved?
So, well, thank you so much for having us again. We heard about the terrible tragedy that happened in Atlanta, and we very quickly mobilized, our team mobilized and immediately reached out to the DeKalb County Police Department, offering our services, providing emergency travel coordination and complimentary airfare for the family members of Officer David Rose. And we got a response from a incredible officer, Lieutenant Graham of the DeKalb County Police Department, and he helped me coordinate, 15 family members and all of their information. He provided everything we needed to book those tickets through Delta Airlines. We're very, very, very grateful for their help in providing these flights so that, you know, not only can the family members be there to honor Officer Rose's life, but also to be there together to support each other, because this is, you know, the worst thing that they could possibly be going through. And it's just such an honor to be able to, you know, bring that comfort and peace to a family who's just going through the worst thing imaginable.
That compassion really goes such a long way. Tell me a little bit about how Luke's Wings got started. How long have you guys been operating? I want to make sure for those streaming along, if they're just tuning in or if they're just getting introduced to you guys, that they can get some of this story, because you really do something really important for our community.
Absolutely. So Luke's Wings was founded in 2008 after learning that the government only provides a few flights to the families of those catastrophically injured. And so we step in and we alleviate the burden of travel or the finances for the family, so that there's no barrier between getting them to their loved one's bedside. We only fly for funerals. When it comes to our law enforcement officers, we recognize their great sacrifice, and we so greatly thank them and want to bring their families in for peace. To their funerals, so that they're able to say their final goodbyes.
If someone is listening to this and they say, hey, I want to help you guys and I want to support your mission, do you take donations? How can people get involved with you?
We do. So on our website, which is lukeswings.org, we are able to make donations online. Monetary donations are wonderful. We also have an area on our website where you can donate Delta miles, and that helps us book flights for our family members and our travelers as well. So any donation is a wonderful donation and helps us to continue to support our mission of reuniting our families with their loved ones.
Wonderful. Ladies, thank you so much for streaming with us, joining us and sharing this information. Wonderful thing you're doing, and I definitely am hopeful that it brings some comfort to Officer Rose's family, that they're able to not have to think at least about these logistics. So thank you guys so much for sharing, and of course, letting us know how we can get involved if we choose. So thank you for your time. Okay, guys, I'm going to bring you back here for just a second, because while we are preparing for Officer Rose's funeral, we also know that memorials still grow for him, both outside the CDC and, of course, Dekalb County has a memorial set up where you can pay your respects. And we know members of our community have been doing just that over the past week and a half or so. So our Kim Leffler is actually out at the CDC today, and we know that some CDC workers are returning back to work today in the building, and we're wanting to check in with her to get us update on the situation. So Kim, thank you so much for joining us this morning. What can you tell us about the situation?
Well, Ariel, we know that 4 buildings here do remain closed to all except critical staff following the shooting here on August 8th. But employees working in other buildings do have the option to come back to the office in person here, but they also can remain remote as well if they choose to do so. Now, this comes after the GBI says the accused shooter, Patrick Joseph White, fired nearly 200 rounds at the CDC buildings here on August 8th. The GBI says a search warrant at White's house revealed written documentation of his discontent with the COVID-19 vaccine. Officials say there are enhanced security measures on campus here as some workers do return. Now, following the shooting, the union representing CDC employees says more needs to be done, including more security measures on the campus here, as well as mental health support for employees. Now, take a listen to what the union president said regarding safety last week, and it was also the day that Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. visited the CDC campus as well. Take a listen.
Those bullets actually entered the building, so it's not just where it was outside surface damage. There was damage to the interior as well. So a lot of these employees, I mean, they're traumatized. It's not every day they wake up to get shot at.
Assure the CDC staff that they're safe, that they're supported, that they have the broader agency behind them, and that we're going to do everything we can to assure their safety.
Now, Ariel, as you mentioned, at the top of the stream. We are also learning of memorial services for Officer David Rose, who was killed while responding to the scene here on August 8th. His memorial will be on Friday, August 22nd at 11 a.m. at First Baptist Church of Atlanta on North Peachtree Road. But again, some CDC workers are returning to the office today. Of course, we're going to have much more throughout the day right here on Fox 5. That's Lays from here, Ariel. I'll send it back to you.
Kim, thank you. You know, I do want to ask you, you've talked to a lot of CDC workers and you've been really on top of this story since it's happened. Are they telling you anything about what kind of specific security measures they want to see taken? Is there anything that would help them feel safer that they've let you know about?
Well, certainly a lot of the workers I've spoken with are very concerned about safety. I've been speaking with one source inside the CDC this morning who tells me there are additional security guards here on campus. And I have noticed some of the buildings where I saw bullet holes here last week have been repaired. But beyond that, I'm not seeing any additional or changes in terms of security just outside of the campus from our vantage point here. But it's certainly something that a lot of employees are concerned about, some saying they're not sure when they'll be ready to return.
Kim, thank you so much. Of course, we'll check in with you again throughout the day, but we appreciate that update. In case you guys are unfamiliar, I'll catch you up. We know that more than 500 rounds were fired there at the CDC buildings. Over 200 struck roughly 6 buildings. That was according to a news conference from the GBI about a week or so ago. And within that, we also learned that it was going to take a while to get the CDC repaired. They said days to weeks to get those windows put back together. So you just heard from our Kim Leffler out there that it sounds like they are making progress. Some of the windows have been repaired. We'll continue to keep you updated as more CDC workers do return to the campus. I do want to get a check of our weather forecast. I do know that as we continue to look outside, it feels a little humid and muggy. And I'm going to see if our Jonathan Stacy maybe is standing by and we can get a check-in with him. If not, we'll do it coming up next. But I do know that we're tracking quite a few things weather-wise, not just with the heat and humidity here in Atlanta, but of course we have Hurricane Erin, which really became a big deal almost overnight. So Jonathan, if you're standing by, okay, we're going to come back to him in just a little bit. So I'm looking off to the side, you guys, and checking out what our situation is. And it looks like Jonathan's going to be ready coming up next. So we're going to see you back here in just a little bit. I want to get a check in on our weather forecast again. Humidity, if you walk outside, there's no way you don't feel it. It's like summer's edge is coming off ever so slightly, but we're not quite there yet. So we're going to check in with Jonathan coming up next. 3. Well, welcome back. I'm Ariel Onstadt. Thanks so much for streaming along with us. It is great to have you here on our Monday morning. And guys, I know we were just talking a little bit about checking in with meteorologist Jonathan Stacy, because if you've stepped outside, there's no doubt you feel the heat and humidity, but Hurricane Erin becoming a big discussion throughout the past week, and of course as we move forward. So I want to see if we can bring in meteorologist Jonathan Stacy in just a little bit and see if we can get him up here. Jonathan, I see you now. This is great. So what are we looking at for our Monday?
Well, good morning to you, Ariel. It is turning out to be a pretty bright start to Monday morning. Cloud-free skies. Clouds are on their way in, but the temperature is off into the races. We'll take a look at that in just a second here, but here's the Monday menu. Partly cloudy skies, eventually a 20% shot at showers. Isolated thunderstorms can't be ruled out, especially mainly to the north and to the west of I-85. Light winds out of the east, therefore the humidity will hold on tight. The sun goes down at 8:20. We're starting to say so long to those really late sunsets, but nonetheless, we'll still have some sunshine over and beyond the 8 o'clock hour. In terms of the temperature, look at this, off into the races. 86 degrees right now here in Atlanta, 84 in Rome, 83 Carrollton. Go down south and you'll find numbers in the mid, on their way to the upper 80s, and eventually on their way into the 90s. We are on what is now, after this afternoon, our 5-day streak of 90+ degree temperatures. Kind of an anomaly for August, considering how we started the month. Right now we're at 86 degrees. That dew point stifling at 74. Winds are calm. We're about a degree warmer than we were this time yesterday. So here's how the remainder of your day shakes out. Temperatures by 3 o'clock hour high at 95 degrees could easily feel like it's over 100 degrees. We're not looking at a round of heat advisories coming out today. I think we're going to stay below the advisory thresholds. However, it's going to feel quite muggy out there considering you have a lot of direct sunlight and then a few clouds popping up, but those clouds should mostly be benign, but a few storms could develop mainly to the north and to the west of town. Here's a look at your hour by hour forecast. You can see a fairly light wind pulling in out of the east, some moisture developing up across the mountains as early as 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Pickens, Gordon County, along with Raven County getting a spritz or a sprinkle. Nothing too intimidating, nothing necessarily strong, kind of a string of storms here during the 6 o'clock hour. For our metro counties, who's most susceptible? Well, it's Bartow and Cherokee counties, along with Paulding, Cobb, even North Fulton, and maybe even Forsyth in the bunch there as we get into the second half of the day. Kids already home from school at this point, and the rain kind of fizzles out, especially as we put the sun down. So here's a look at your Fox 5 Storm Team 7-day forecast. 95 today, likely our warmest day of the week. That is, by tomorrow, we may not get out the 80s. And that's because a wedge will lay hold, will really start to drive up those easterly winds. Thick clouds, especially across northeast Georgia, showers and storms. Most of the activity comes during the afternoon and evening hours. By Wednesday, we try to peak back into the 90s, but it doesn't look like the 90s hold strong. We'll start to release our grip on those 90s as we get into the second half of the week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, featuring 80+ degree temperatures, but not 90 degree temperatures. In fact, it looks like Friday and Saturday will feature another wave of showers and storms before sunshine comes back for Sunday. Ariel?
Yeah, Jonathan, I'm looking at this forecast and I'm starting to learn anytime one of you meteorologists says a wedge pattern is in the works, I feel like it bodes well for how we're going to feel about our temperatures.
Yeah, I love how you're starting to apply the vocabulary. This meteorological vocabulary is starting to really take context in your language.
Yes.
It's like language arts meet science 101 there. Yeah, yes, wedge. And if you really want to get into the science, you'll hear some meteorologists refer to it as a CAD wedge, which simply stands for C, cold, A, air, and D for damming, cold air damming, meaning cold air cannot move over the mountains or air coming down from the north. It can't cross the Appalachian mountain chain, so it says, well, the only way we can go down is a little bit further to the south, and we're going to plant our focus right here on the state of Georgia, and typically it's Northeast Georgia that gets the brunt of the wedge. Gainesville, always a textbook example of the impacts of cold air damming, for sure.
I love that for them. I love that they get that cooler air.
Yeah.
It must be lovely. I have to admit, when you said a cad wedge, you explained it so well, and I am going to start applying that to my vocabulary, but it did also sound like a really delicious piece of cheese.
Oh, yeah, it does sound like
Right?
a piece of cheese. I was thinking maybe like an architect software. CAD,
Oh,
like,
yes,
okay,
I
but
could see
but I
that
get the vibes
too.
here, yeah.
I see, you know,
Yeah.
Jonathan, I see you applying design to
Whatever it
meteorological
is
terms.
something cool.
Yes.
Cool
That-
cheese, cool architect software, whatever it
see
is,
what
it's
you did
cool.
there.
Cool temperatures is what I'll
Yes.
take for tomorrow. Cooler.
Jonathan, thank you so much.
For sure.
We're going to look ahead, and I'm going to look ahead to those cooler temperatures. So, Jonathan, thank you. Okay, so one thing I want to keep you guys up to date on is we know that there was a rally happening today, and advocates and lawmakers are actually pressing Georgia's insurance commissioner to do more about Georgia's mental health parity law. Basically, this focuses on treating mental health like our physical health and making sure insurance companies pay for claims that the same way they would for physical health like they do mental health. So that's the situation. And advocates are wanting to make sure our insurance company commissioner is doing that with insurance companies. They held a news conference, and our Chris Rosenthal is actually out there. So I want to see if we can check in with him in just a little bit. Chris is standing by. Chris, I hear you. Can you recap a little bit of what we learned today at this news conference?
Yeah, well, there's about several hundred petitions and signatures that were just handed off to the insurance commissioner's office, basically asking for him to do more on mental health parity. You know, in 2022, the Parity Act was passed that, like you said, it made for mental health to be treated by the insurance companies in the same way physical health ailments are to be treated. But this organization, you know, they argue that their definition sometimes of what's medically necessary may be too narrow. People aren't being covered well enough. So that's why they came out here today to ask the insurance commissioner to do more. Now, on Friday, the insurance commissioner did announce $20 million in fines for insurance companies for various violations. I think about 6,000 or so violations, around 20 or so companies for violations for the Parity Act. That is something that this group, the National Alliance of Mental Illness, and some other mental health organizations are happy about that. But they say it doesn't quite go far enough. They say there are still issues. They say they still hear complaints from people saying that one of the issues is one of the big issues they talk about is mental health deserts, where areas where there just isn't good enough access to mental health treatment. So they'd like to see more done. They also think that they also say that the complaint process when you're having these issues is just not clear and not easy enough. So they would like to see the insurance commissioner do more for that. They asked for a meeting with the insurance commissioner, and they told me that insurance commissioner would meet with them in a few weeks. Nothing planned yet. I asked for comment from the insurance commissioner's office. Haven't received anything back yet. So that's the latest.
Okay, well, Chris, that's interesting, because I do know, I can imagine that comparison, right? Food desert with mental health desert, in the sense that it's really hard to have access to some of these treatments. It's hard to be able to travel to some of these places. And I was going to ask you, you did kind of explain it a little bit about what they feel the insurance commissioner needs to do in terms of how is he not enforcing Georgia's law. And you explained it a little bit while you were just talking, but could you tell me once more, how do they feel he's not enforcing Georgia's law?
Well, they would like to just see more done. They think they think that it should be easier to file a complaint. They think it's not an easy process. It's not very clear. They think the fines are not enough. The fines could be more. $20 million. It sounds like a lot, but they say to the insurance companies, that's over 20 so companies. They say that's just not really enough. But you know, they do look forward to talking with the insurance commissioner and working with him and trying to get some of their concerns addressed.
Awesome. Chris, thank you. I know Georgia's insurance commissioner is John King, and again, you've reached out to him, and I know that they've reached out to try to get a comment and a better understanding of how they want to see these changes and how Georgia's law is enforced. So we'll see if he gets back to you. In the meantime, thank you so much for keeping us up to date on that. We'll probably check in with you once again here in a little bit, but I appreciate the update. So, guys, we are going to go ahead and look ahead to what's coming up next. We have a few stories coming down the pipeline. One of the big ones, we're going to check in with our Tyler Fingert about a birthday, a very special birthday for one of America's first ladies and Georgia's first lady. That's coming up next. Well, welcome back. I'm Ariel Onstadt, and it's so good to have you streaming along with us. We have Tyler Fingert here because it is, or would have been, the 98th birthday of Rosalyn Carter. And we know that Georgia's own credit union building actually put up in their lights, they put up a sign honoring her and her, what would have been her 98th birthday. So this was a tribute to our former First Lady, and a digital mural created by a local artist also honors the First Lady, Dane Jefferson, and it showed her in different phases of her life and her legacy. So Tyler, we're bringing you in, of course, because we know that later today in the Plains, the First Ladies, and I'm looking at my notes here, the First Ladies Day Commission plans to hold a wreath-laying ceremony. You, of course, have covered many stories with the Carters. You've been down to Plains. Tell me a little bit about some of her life and some of the things that struck you as you've covered so many of her stories.
Well, I think, first of all, the fact every time I've gone down to Plains, I was down there, 3 or 4 times, 5 times over the course of the last several years, after obviously we found out that Jimmy Carter was in hospice care, former President Jimmy Carter was in hospice care, and then we were down there multiple times for his birthday, for when Rosalyn Carter passed, for his passing as well. I think that struck me most about the Carters down in Plains, which is their hometown, is just the fact that everyone there loved them.
Yes.
And what's so bizarre, not bizarre, bizarre may be a weird word. South Georgia is obviously a very conservative area, I think is the right way to, but obviously they were Democrats.
Yes.
But politics was nothing for anyone down there.
Yeah.
It was just how beloved they were.
Right.
I mean, they obviously served in the White House, or former President Jimmy Carter served in the White House for a period of time, for 4 years. former First Lady Rosalyn Carter was down there, was up there in D.C. as the First Lady. And so their biggest stuff happened after they left the White House, and that was the service that they did to Habitat for Humanity and all the different things. I mean, she was obviously big on caregiving. Her alma mater down in Americus, I mean, the caregiving school is named after her down there.
Yes.
Just because she was obviously such a great, she was big on helping people.
And Tyler, I think you've really hit the nail on the head here in the sense that what was able to transcend the ideological differences that they may have had with any member of their community was the way they loved their community, the service that they poured in. And it kind of goes to show how you can overcome so much by treating other people with respect, with treating other people with dignity. And at the end of the day, it's not about what you so much believe, but it's about your actions. It's what you do and how you treat other people. So as we look at her 98th birthday and we look at some of these different memorials to honor her today. We know that another in the Carter Gardens in Jimmy Carter National Historical Park. They're going to be also doing a wreath laying ceremony there, and it marks the first event recognizing former First Ladies in this manner. So pretty significant for Rosalyn Carter today. When you looked at this situation as well, and you've covered so many stories about the Carters, the relationship between her and Jimmy was also very, very special.
Oh yeah, they were inseparable. They were a team. I mean, obviously, you think of them in a marriage. People are the parents. Obviously, they had kids. They're a team, but they were known together. It wasn't just former President Jimmy Carter and then his wife. No, it was former President Jimmy Carter and former First Lady Rosalyn Carter. They were a package unit because, I mean, he really made it that way. He wanted to be not just about him. It was about her and him, about what they're doing, the Habitat for Humanity, obviously his work at the Carter Center, their work at the Carter Center, because she was all there as well, helping with the work, making sure their humanitarian work was unfolding around the world, and obviously that work continues. And we're here on Briarcliff Road in Atlanta, and we're literally not far. You just go down the street and turn right, and you're at the Carter Center.
There. I think what's really incredible to me, and being in Jimmy Carter's funeral coverage and just talking through different aspects of his life, I think what kind of struck me is how, speaking with lawmakers, even here in Georgia, back when he led Georgia, talking about how so many of those lawmakers had to go through Rosalyn before they got to Jimmy. They knew that if they had to build consensus, she was the one to talk to. And I think
isn't that always the case, though, in a marriage?
You know,
well, you're not married yet, but isn't that always the case?
I think
the friends have to go through you before your fiance.
Yes, they would absolutely agree. They would absolutely agree. And it is a testament to just the mutual respect for the work that both of them did, the goals they both shared, and incredible. What would have been her 98th, and then just looking ahead, it's always a great time to reflect because
I love those pictures. I just saw that we put that up there.
Yeah, beautiful. And
the kiss cam.
I love it. It's wonderful to see. I think we also saw a video here in this just a bit ago of the credit union building, Georgia's own credit union building. There it is. With the 98th birthday message for Rosalyn Carter and her family. So it's really cool to look at. I love that they're always able to change those out. So.
And they always let us know when there's going to be something big up there so we can get a shot of it from one of our Fox 5 net cams to be able to show it off.
Yes.
I mean, obviously she was instrumental in this state, just like former President Jimmy Carter, but they never really lost their hometown roots, which was Plains. They went back there. And that's always struck me so much, is that you would think that you maybe would want to, at least for me, if you live down in a smaller town, maybe you want to move somewhere different, somewhere bigger, because he was a former governor of Georgia, so he had ties to Atlanta. The Carter Center's up here. But they wanted to stay down in Plains, which just shows the type of people they were. They liked their hometown. They loved the atmosphere down there.
Totally.
I mean, Plains, what is it? Like population, like what, 500 or something, if that. But they loved going to their church. He former President Jimmy Carter taught Sunday school for years down there, and people would make a pilgrimage down there so they can hear him speak.
It's really incredible. It reminds me of one of my favorite sayings, which is just the grass is greenest where you water it. You know, it's like he could have gone anywhere, worked for a think tank, worked anywhere, had any job, and he said, I want to come home, want to water my grass where I grew up, where I lived. And you saw that, just the love that people returned because of what they gave them. So
And within the last couple months, a couple months after former President Jimmy Carter passed away, they finally just, a month or two ago, opened up their gravesite at the family home. I don't think they've opened up the actual family home yet for people to go tour, but they can go out to the gravesite where both former President Jimmy Carter and former First Lady Rosalyn Carter are. And I hope a lot of people understand, because this is what we heard over and over from folks down there when we were doing stories covering her passing and then his passing, just about the legacy they leave behind. Obviously, we know former President Jimmy Carter's because he has the Carter Center. She obviously was known for the women's rights and mental health care and that type of work. And that work obviously is continuing. We obviously know the Carter Center's taking part in that. And then obviously, people don't want their passing to be just history. Their work is going to obviously be continuing. And I just think that's what's so great about what they've built, because they are just their work is going to continue and it won't stop. And it's sad that they passed away, but she was obviously battling dementia. He was on hospice care for so long. And his family was just very obviously saddened with their losses, but they know that they're together again. Yes. And the one thing that I don't know if you were here yet, for Rosalyn Carter's funeral, that struck me the most, after they did their funeral at Maranatha Baptist Church, they did their procession down the street in downtown Plains. People showed up, so many people. They got out of the car, the family, out of the motorcade, and walked the streets. And that's in relation to, if you remember back in the inauguration parade. I think they even did it for former President Jimmy Carter's funeral as well. And it was a tribute to that.
I get chills when you tell me about that, because it's just so significant to say that, hey, he really wanted to show he was a man of the people. He wasn't too good to ride in a presidential motorcade. He wanted to get out. He wanted to walk. He wanted people to walk with him. And there have been so many moments in ceremonies and memorials since where people have gotten out and done that same thing, paying tribute to what he did. So
now all inaugurations, it's standard protocol to get out, even if it's like -5 degrees in Washington D.C. in January. People are still going to get out and walk for a little bit. But it was a moving tribute, seeing them walk through the streets like that in honor of her, and then obviously in honor of him during his funeral as well, because we got tipped off that was going to happen about a couple minutes before. And just seeing all the tears people got out, because when I remember I did an interview with somebody and they told me that it moved them to tears to see that, because it was such a moving tribute to be able to do that all those years later for their funerals.
Amazing. Tyler, thank you for giving this perspective and the color to this discussion. I think you guys, if you're streaming along, you have any questions or things you want to talk about regarding the Carters, Tyler here, you can find him on social media, I'm sure. You can find his email, and we can talk a little bit more about it. It is always a wonderful discussion to just pay tribute to the President and First Lady that came right here from Georgia. So it's really great. Tyler, thank you so much for joining us and discussing. We're going to switch gears here to a story that I know you have covered, Tyler. Our Caitlin Pratt is actually out covering it, so I'm going to have you along for the ride while I talk about it, because we know an Atlanta City Councilwoman, and you guys, if you've been following this story, you know she's introducing new legislation on MARTA's safety protocols. It comes days after MARTA just released new safety plans, and of course following recent incidents, which I know that you have covered.
Yeah, people want to talk about that, especially if they ride MARTA, they want to stay safe.
They want to make sure that they feel comfortable. So Caitlin Pratt has actually been out tracking the latest on this, and I see her standing by. So we're going to see if we can check in with Caitlin to get an update on where this is headed. Caitlin, I see you. Good morning. Great to see your face.
Hey, good morning to you both, you and Tyler. Yes, okay, so this councilwoman, Marcy Overstreet with the Atlanta Transportation Committee on the City Council, she actually held a press conference yesterday to kind of set the stage for today's events happening at 1 o'clock this afternoon. It's going to be the full City Council. She's going to be introducing a resolution specifically about MARTA, and here's why. We've been talking about incidents happening at different MARTA stations the past few months, especially, most notably after one of the Beyonce concerts in July. People going up an escalator there when that escalator just suddenly collapsed, froze up, and several people were injured as a result of that. Also, there's been several shootings that we've been covering things of that nature. So her message yesterday to us media was we want to bring this forefront to the entire city council. This is sort of a nudge for MARTA officials to come forward and tell us officially their plans as far as safety go, as far as reliability go, things of that nature. Take a listen.
That the escalator is now in the city, and that is really good. However, we've since had a couple other incidents where officers have been assaulted, and at this point, we really do need that safety plan and protocols for all of the equipment that MARTA uses to keep our residents safe.
And MARTA, for its part, sending out a release to Fox 5 telling us about their new improved safety plan. And some of those points, I want to read them to you. Crowd metering measures, especially after large events here in the city, rail support teams, police officers, as well as load and go teams after large events to ensure crowd control and customer safety. They're also in the process, they say, of refurbishing or replacing all 150 escalators. Of course, they go through vigorous overview and are reviewed each and every time period they're supposed to. That one at Vine City is back in order this morning. But of course, the call here from city council members is that we want to hear it from the horse's mouth officially, get this on the record from MARTA officials. And I can understand that we have a lot of big events coming here to the city, namely the FIFA World Cup, next year, other international events. So those events can't be successful if we can't rely on the safety and reliability of public transportation. Ariel?
Yeah, Caitlin, so well said. And I think, what the sense I'm getting from what you're saying, and we've even had this conversation in our newsroom, but it's just this idea of a reputation, right? Like visitors who come from around the world need to understand and feel like our public transit is safe, it's reliable, it's efficient, and it sounds like Atlanta city leaders are trying to not only make sure that we are safe, but they're trying to get at that reputation aspect.
Yeah, we already have a bad reputation as far as traffic goes, right? We don't need anything else.
Amen. Yes.
Right?
Amen.
As far as moving forward, that meeting today, city council meeting, is at 1 o'clock, and then it's just going to be put out there, and then other council members will have a chance to weigh in. The next transportation committee meeting is next week, so we'll keep you updated along the way.
Perfect. Caitlin, thank you so much. I'm sure this won't be the last that we discuss MARTA, so thanks again. As we continue to look at news of the day, we have been covering a lot of different local stories, letting you guys know what's happening. But I do know that we continue to follow national news here in our newsroom. And one of the big things deals with a rally expected to happen. It's actually underway or could just be ending in Washington, D.C. So we are taking a live look at the White House now, where European leaders, including Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, are headed there to the White House to meet with President Donald Trump. There was a Stand for Ukraine rally happening at Lafayette Park in Washington, D.C. That was scheduled for 10 o'clock this morning. And we know that Trump is expected to meet with Zelensky. He just sat down with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Alaska last Friday. We were able to look at those images live as both President Trump and President Putin landed there in Alaska. President Putin got into President Trump's motorcade. Incredible scenes, but that meeting, that high-stakes summit, ended without a ceasefire agreement. And that was something that President Donald Trump had talked a lot about. He did reverse course in wake of his meeting with Russian leader Vladimir Putin to say an overall peace agreement. So if you've been following this story, you know that Trump was really big on discussing how there would be a ceasefire, how he wanted to achieve a ceasefire in Ukraine. But after that meeting with Putin, he says that he's working towards an overall peace agreement. He says that that would be the next step in ending the 3.5-year war in Ukraine towards a ceasefire. And again, you're looking at live images there just outside the White House as we await those European leaders to arrive. We know that also NATO leader Mark Rutte, as well as EU leader leader of the European Union, and others are expected to arrive soon. In talks with European allies after Friday's summit in Alaska, Trump has said Putin reiterated that he wanted the key Donetsk and Luhansk regions that make up the Donbas area of the Ukraine. This has been something that has long been on Putin's list territory-wise to have as it relates to Ukraine. Putin did appear open to the possibility of halting the stalemate in two other regions, Zaporizhzhia and Kherson. Those were two areas. There's been a lot of fighting there. And he did seem open, this is according to the Associated Press, to halting the stalemate in those two regions. But again, he wants key territory in the Donbas region. European officials familiar with the calls spoke to the Associated Press on the condition of anonymity. And they said that this is what unfolded. Now, keep in mind, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky has previously rejected giving up that territory in the Donbas. Ukrainian President Zelensky has also said Russia must return what they estimate to be roughly 10,000 children, Ukrainian children, that they say Russia has kidnapped in the fighting. In the aftermath of the summit, we don't really know what the next concrete steps will be in terms of either a ceasefire or a peace agreement there in Ukraine. But we do know that President Trump is committed to more meetings with both leaders. Again, he is meeting with Ukrainian President Zelensky here at the White House today. And it was unclear, again, this is according to the Associated Press, it was unclear among those briefed on the exchanges between Trump and Putin whether Trump saw Putin's desire for the Donbas as acceptable. So it's unclear as to whether Trump actually agreed that Putin should have that territory. But we'll continue to keep you updated as these meetings continue today and as we learn more information. Again, you're taking a live look at the White House. Coming up next, we're going to be checking in on your weather forecast and letting you know what to expect in the week ahead. Maybe also getting a check in on Hurricane Erin. If you guys have been following this, you know that Hurricane Erin greatly strengthened overnight. So we'll be having a discussion on that coming up next. We'll see you back here. back. Thanks so much for streaming along with us. I'm Ariel Onstad, and it is great to see you and have you streaming along with us on our Monday morning. If you have been following along, you know that the weather is a big topic, maybe a little bit beyond the territory here of Atlanta. And of course, we are talking about Hurricane Erin out in the Gulf, or rather not in the Gulf, in the Atlantic, excuse me. We have meteorologist Jonathan Stacy, and we're going to be checking in with him in just a little bit. I do know that Hurricane Erin strengthened greatly overnight, and this has been a big story. So you can see there live satellite images of this storm. It intensified quite rapidly, and we're going to be checking in with Jonathan, I think, in just a little bit. I know that he was standing by just a minute ago and is probably getting set up. So let's see. We're going to be coming back to him in just a bit. But first, guys, I want to let you know about a story that we are tracking because a manhunt is underway in Brookhaven after a shooting. Now, police are looking for the man that you see here on your screen, and they say that this all unfolded there in Brookhaven. This shooting happened after a party. So we know that a man showed up to what was supposed to be a peaceful gathering. And then, of course, what ended was anything but. One of the things that we know, Brookhaven police want you to be on the lookout. If you see that man you just saw on your screen, they considered him armed and dangerous, and they want you to give them any information you may have. His name is Jose Carlos Meza Ignacio. He is 31 years old, and again, wanted in connection with a murder on Buford Highway. Now, Meza Ignacio allegedly shot someone after an argument inside their apartment. According to police, the way this unfolded is they believe that Ignacio brought a gun to this party, and the victim, someone at that party, told him not to bring the gun, right? Told him, hey, you need to put that away. According to police, that's when Ignacio shot that victim. Brookhaven police say this happened inside of an apartment complex early Friday. He is wanted on charges of murder, first-degree cruelty to children, third-degree cruelty to children, aggravated assault, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, and criminal damage to property. And the reason there are those child cruelty charges is because police say this shooting unfolded in front of children. They say that children were present and witnesses to this violence. This happened in the 3600 block of Buford Highway just before 3 a.m. Sunday. They found a man with a gunshot wound, and they tried to save his life, but they say that victim died at the scene. And again, they believe that Ignacio and the victim were drinking inside the apartment when the argument broke out about Ignacio having a gun and bringing that to the party. And again, this happened, they believe, around the victim's nieces and nephews. This was a family gathering, and we'll continue to keep you updated as we learn any new information about the situation. Again, this is an ongoing manhunt, and if you see the man on your screen, he is considered armed and dangerous, and police would like you to contact them immediately. Okay, so as we continue to follow the latest here, I do want to see, we're going to get a look at Hurricane Erin. We have meteorologist Jonathan Stacy. I see he's ready, and with a look at the tropics behind him. Jonathan, can you hear me?
Ariel, good afternoon, or good morning.
You know,
almost
Jonathan,
afternoon.
it is almost afternoon. I see that monster storm behind you.
Oh, a monster storm, a behemoth it is. In fact, Friday going into Saturday, we had a storm that blew up in intensification, rapid intensification. I wouldn't call this a textbook case because this was extreme. In fact, this was something that potentially could have been a record-setting storm in terms of how rapidly it intensified, going from a Cat 1 to a Cat 5 just over a 24-hour period. And this likely is the strongest storm or the fastest storm to rapidly intensify to that degree before September 1st. And so at this hour, it's producing winds of 140 miles an hour, making it a Category 4. Dropped down to 4 last night, but you can see here, here's the island of Hispaniola. There's the eye there, so it is about 200 miles to the north there, closing in on the Turks and Caicos and the Bahamas. Not expected to make a landfall in terms of the eye of the storm within any period of time. In fact, it's going to avoid land as it continues to traverse to the north and to the west before making a peel and a turn back off to the north and to the east. And that's good news. Erin stays offshore, no direct impacts to land. Coastal impacts, high surf, That's pretty much the case all the way from the Florida Peninsula, all the way up into New England, into the Canadian Maritime, therefore dangerous rip currents. However, I will say for the Carolinas, especially as you get out closer to the Outer Banks, there is an increasing risk for not only flooding, but also storm surge of 3 to 6 feet. We'll be watching this area carefully over the next 72 hours. The storm overall is expected to grow, but not necessarily intensify. So you can see at this hour, there are already coastal flood watches that basically line the east coast of the United States. And then this area right here, Nags Head, Dare County, this is just across the border going southward from Virginia into North Carolina, a place known as the Outer Banks there. They're under that coastal flood watch. And then you have that small craft advisory, I should say, that really lines the eastern coast. And it does include the Georgia coast here, from Savannah all the way down to the Golden Isles. There's concern that the waters will be quite choppy as we get once again deeper into the week, starting really Tuesday into Wednesday and going into Thursday. By Tuesday, you have a Cat 3 storm, still a major hurricane, but weakening once again in intensity. I wouldn't be surprised if the storm grows once it gets in this region here. Pretty close, or a bit too close for comfort. They're definitely going to get some high winds, especially anywhere down from, I say, Jacksonville going all the way up, maybe even as far south as Myrtle Beach, near the border belt there of the South Carolina, North Carolina state line, going all the way up through the Outer Banks and the Chesapeake Bay. The storm could maybe even unleash a few downpours as you look at that far western side, and then makes a very pivotal turn before it can become a land issue for those across the Northeast and New England. Interestingly enough, you can definitely tell what season it is. There's another little wave that's riding its coattail, and this may be a depression by the time we get to the end of the week. In fact, it has a 50% chance of development. This bubble right here turning as it moves across the open waters of the Atlantic, but like Erin, is expected to make a curve to the north before it gets close to any landmass. So the tropics are definitely hot because the waters of the Atlantic are hot.
Yeah, Jonathan, I mean, this is just incredible to witness. Before I let you go, I have about 30 seconds or a minute with you. I have to ask you if you can confirm something I was reading about this storm and how its eye wall had reached its maximum strength. And so we saw a process where it was breaking down and almost forming like this outer eye wall.
It's called eye wall replacement.
That's it, yeah.
It is a phenomenon that happens whenever you get a storm and the wind fill is just so freaking strong.
Yeah.
That eye wall, which is literally the base of the storm, it starts to, then you have the clouds at the top of the storm. And so basically it gets separated because of the length between the top of the storm to the bottom of it. And so then you have basically a new eye wall that takes shape over time. It's a storm, once again, that the winds are just so vigorous. We're talking about a Cat 5 hurricane, and we don't have a lot of Cat 5s every season. And this is a mere blessing that is taking this particular path, because if this was going to impact a particular landmass, meaning a direct landfall, this would be a devastating storm by mass. And this happens to be the case for the east coast of the United States, but also for the people on the island of Bermuda. They are going to likely be on the western side of the storm. But once again, they were in the cone at one point in time, but at this point it looks like the storm is going to take a path up and stay away from both landmasses overall.
Jonathan, thank you so much for that update and breaking everything down for us. We do appreciate it. Right now, we do know that European leaders are set to arrive here imminently at the White House. You're taking a live look there at the Honor Guard as we await for those European leaders to arrive. President Trump set to meet with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Of course, they will be discussing some of what came out of President Trump's meeting with Vladimir Putin last Friday. We'll continue to keep you updated. I'm going to leave you with a live look here as we await their arrival and as our news continues at the noon hour. So I'll let you guys listen in and watch this as we wait.